All right. How's it going? Good to see you. Thank you, Pastor. Can we give our pastor some love for putting this together? Charge you guys a person? $28.75. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, we're continuing the formed. One thing I've noticed in the church in the last 30 years is it seems to be all about memorizing Bible verses. And look, that's important. I mean, the renewal of the mind is not to be underestimated. But when I read the Bible will be pointing to a lot of things, fellowship being a big part of it. So we talk about identity formation. Of course you should memorize scriptures that speak of being a new person in Christ. But if you think it's just Bible memorization, I mean, I know people and it's still a mess. It's not just reading it, it's living it. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about identity formation, but how it's applied, how it actually is fleshed out. So the first point we talked about was attachment. The second one is on approval. There's a saying that imitation is form of flattery. What that basically means is we imitate the people we respect. We imitate the people that we want their approval. Okay, so now when David is saying to Saul, wearing your armor, this apparel is not fitting for me. This is more than just David not wearing Saul's apparel. This is about David not needing Saul's approval. Okay, it's a big deal for David to say this to the king. Because what he's basically saying is, I'm not looking to please you. Please him. Because apparel, approval, here's the deal. When you need someone's approval, whoever it is, approval, they determine your apparel. When I say apparel, I don't just mean dress. I mean how you act, how you behave, all the ways in which you conduct that probably matches with the person whose approval you're seeking. Okay. When I was in Bible college 30 years ago, we had certain students, and there was an evangelist family from West Virginia. And you always knew the students that loved the accent. It's like, you're from Canada. Why do you sound like you're from West Virginia? But that's what we do. We imitate the people we respect, we look up to. They are going to determine the apparel that you wear. They're going to determine how you act, how you behave, your value system. All that is going to come right from the person that you're going to please. Okay? So be very, very careful on who we try to please. Can we pull up the... Oh, it's on me. That's right. What do I do now? No, not yet. Coming soon, though. Thank you. Thanks for the help, brother. Appreciate it. Approval is really like a drug. Somebody's nod, their nod of approval, nod becomes a god. The nod becomes just like a god. It's kind of like back, dating myself with saying this, but I grew up in an era, much like many of you, where we got newspapers. Like not digital, like actual newspaper. I've watched the newspaper go from the size of an encyclopedia to a pamphlet over the last 50 years, right? Anybody else? I mean, at one point it was like full-blown newspaper. The dog went out, got the newspaper, brought the newspaper to the front door. You pat the dog on the head, little pat, little... The dog brings you 10 newspapers. Because the nod becomes God. Just like a drug. This is why Facebook is so successful. Those likes, so you got 5 notifications, that's a dopamine boost. Right? You're feeding off of that. It becomes a drug. And drug because if you don't get it, you have oral symptoms. If you're living for somebody's approval, if you live for their approval, it means you're going to die by their rejection. It means the second they go silent, all of a sudden they're not giving the approval, and you got major detox, like withdrawal symptoms going on. Approval works just like a drug. Now, when we say approval, of approval. Excellent, thank you. There's validation, affirmation, and authorization. When we say approval, we mean these 3 things. Okay, the first is validation. It's when David looks at, or when Saul looks at David, and what validation is I see you. I validate. Like, I see you. You are the real deal. Okay? It's Saul looking at David. Second he goes to put on his armor, he's recognizing that David is a soldier. He's capable of this. Validation is, I see you. And then there's affirmation. That's, I believe in you. I swear by you. You got what it takes. I affirm you have what it takes in you to beat this giant. And then there's authorization. Like you get somebody's approval to do something, what you're saying is I got their endorsement, I got their blessing, they gave me the go, they gave me the green light. That's authorization. When we say approval, we're talking about these 3 things. But we got to be very careful who it is that validates us. Very careful with who it is that affirms us. Very careful with who it is that authorizes us, because that person is going to play a very invested role in who you become. Identity links right back to the person that approves of you. Now, we all want to think that we don't need people's approval, but that's just not how we're built. We're social creatures. We come under the influence of the people that we look for their approval all the time. I mean, how many of you know when your spouse, they answer the cell phone, you have no idea who they're talking to, but you listen for about 5 seconds, and based on the inflection in your spouse's voice, you know exactly who's on the other line. Right? You know when your spouse is talking to his boss, you know when he's talking to his mother, you know when he's talking to the kids. There's a different inflection. Why is that? Because people bring out certain sides of us. We fall prey. We're under the susceptibility. We're susceptible to other people. So we are looking for approval of people more than we want to admit or realize. The question is, who is it that you aim to please? It's not do you aim to please. It's who do you aim to please? The do you question is already answered. We are social creatures. We're under the influence of people all the time. Be very careful with whoever it is giving you their approval, because they're determining the apparel. They're determining exactly how you behave. Now, I teach a social psychology class at the college. I play this video. You're going to find this very entertaining. You're going to watch the video and you're going to think, nah, not me. But this particular experiment called the elevator experiment has been done so many times, and 9 out of 10 people do the same thing. And it illustrates for us how susceptible we are to the opinions of other people. If we can play that video, I think you'll get a kick out of this. This is called the elevator experiment.
So, you walk into an elevator and naturally you turn and face the door, right? It's just what we do without even thinking. Would you fall for that? We decided we had to pay homage to Candid.
Tries to maintain his individuality.
The right now we are reenacting their fest of conformity.
Experiment.
So we found a nice elevator at the Juilliard School and gathered our would you fall for that stuff. If we turned to face the back of the elevator, would others follow? All right, in the blue t-shirt, that is Nadia. Passerby. Has nothing to do with this. Everybody else in that elevator, they are all in on the experiment. They are all purposefully facing the wrong way. Nadia is facing the front. You can just see the back of her head, wearing the blue t-shirt. That's Nadia. She is facing the front of the elevator like a normal human being. Everybody else is facing the back.
That's true.
We'll bring this to you in real time, no editing, as it happened. Okay, floor 2. Rebecca gets off, Emily gets on. She also works for us. We're swapping people in and out to reinforce the behavior. Emily's acting like it's the most normal. Oh, Nadia's turned. Nadia. Okay, her bag is slipping off her shoulder. She's nervously playing with it.
Yeah.
Nadia's now halfway round. Will she go any further? Mike gets on. Again, Mike works for the show. Presses his button, faces the back like it's the most normal thing in the world, like he does it every day.
I'm not going to see anyone else.
Isn't he also?
Scott's making some small talk.
He was on celebrity rehab, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's looking towards the back of the elevator because everybody else is. Floor 4.
I love the guy.
4th floor, Mike gets off. Lauren gets on. Lauren also works for us. She's in. Oh, and Nadia has gone all the way around. She's looking at the back of the elevator. That is not normal human behavior. Nadia is looking at the back of the elevator purely because everybody else is. Okay, you've seen it in real time. Let's play that for you again in fast forward. Turning, turn.
Did you notice anything while we were standing in the elevator? We were all facing one way, and we wanted to see if one person would do it, and you...
You did it, yeah. So you were wondering why. But you just went along with it without even questioning.
Yeah.
So, scientists refer to this as the Ash paradigm, when a person's own opinions and actions are influenced by the majority. The lady with the grey coat, she is... Everybody else in the elevator is on our team. She's looking around. She's noticed that everybody else is facing the back. She's looking around, wondering what's going on. This is a bit odd. Everybody else is acting like nothing strange is happening. Elizabeth is looking around like something very strange is happening. We're on the 2nd floor. She's slightly turned. She's turned. She's not facing the front anymore. She's moved. Emily gets on. Again, she's with us. Presses her button. Elizabeth looks at her. Emily faces the back. Elizabeth is turning. Elizabeth is turning. She's pretending she's just looking around, but that's a cover. She's actually turning as well. All right. Going again. Okay, that lady there with the grey pointing up, that's Karen. She's an innocent passerby. Gets on. Presses her button, immediately complies. She faces the back because everybody else is.
You walked in and you started facing the same direction we all were, right?
I actually thought that you all knew something that...
That's the crux. She bowed to the pressure of the group. Conformed, but, you know, it doesn't work every time.
This is so weird that everyone is facing this way and I'm facing that way.
Who can't see.
Is he being helpful or sarcastic? We're about to kick it up a notch. What if Scott played some music on his phone and gradually all of our staff in the elevator started to dance? The people are going up. Okay, man in the hat, he's looking at his phone. He's got earbuds. Another angle on our stranger.
Who's going to cave? Oh, his head's nodding. His head's nodding. He's getting down. That did not take long. He has joined in the elevator dance party. Yep, there he goes. The shoulders are going now. He's getting into it. Head bobbing. Nice. Joined in dancing because everybody else is.
Of course, everybody thinks not me, but that experiment has been replicated dozens of times since 1945, and it's pretty much the same results each time. 9 out of 10 people go along with group conformity. The experiment started in the 1940s because after World War II, atrocities of the Holocaust were uncovered. Social scientists wondered, how is it that one man could beguile an entire nation of people into committing these horrible atrocities? And at first people thought, well, maybe there's something different about the German people. Maybe it's in their character. But these experiments, Solomon Asch, it's called the Asch paradigm. He's one of the first social psychologists to conduct an experiment that was similar. We learned that this wasn't a German problem. This was a human problem. That we easily buckle under the pressure of social conformity. We're talking elevators, but I want you to think about right now what personality traits that you have that are not organic. You are not comfortable being aggressive, but you learn to be aggressive because of the environment in which you grow up in. Certain things were expected of you, traits, qualities, attributes. You were expected to perform a certain way. The group pressure was strong enough, and now you develop what's known in psychology as a pseudo-personality, meaning it's not a personality that truly reflects who you are. It's a personality that was really shaped by the group. So we can laugh at elevators, but how much of that, how much of me is the way God made me? It's a question we should all ask. How much of me is the way God designed me? And how much of it is conditioning? How much of it is the environments I've been a part of, the teams I play on, the expectations of others I fold? Okay? There are many stories in the Bible where God tells people to leave their families, leave their hometowns, because the pressure is too great. I mean, he tells Jeremiah lives in a village called Anathoth. If you read about Jeremiah, you'll find out that Anathoth was a village of priests. So Jeremiah's dad's a priest, probably his uncles. Everybody in that village was a priest. He's raised to be a priest. But what do you do when you're raised to be a priest, but you're called to be a prophet? So God tells Jeremiah, he says, Jeremiah, I know you're from around the way, but I called you to preach around the world. You're a prophet to the nations. Pack your bags, leave Anathoth, go to Jerusalem, because I got to get you outside your hometown, because the pressure's too great. If you don't leave Anathoth, chances are you're going to be a priest, but you were called to be a prophet. I want you to think about the role the environment has played on determining who you are and how much of God's promises we really could be cheated out of because we have slipped into an armor that's not the armor of God. Now, somebody had a question in here. I saw a hand. Yes? Yeah, that's the Asch paradigm. So the first experiment that was done was by Solomon Asch. It was right after World War II. And what Solomon Asch did, similar to the elevator experiment, is he took a group of people. They were all actors. There was only one real subject to the experiment. And it was funny because he put 3 lines on a board, like, lines with a piece of chalk. And one line, the lines were very different in length. Like one was this long, one's this long, one's this long. And then he asked all the participants, the line all the way to the right, which line is equivalent out of these 3 lines? Well, the actors in the experiment all give the wrong answer. And it's obvious that it's a wrong answer. When it's the participant's time to answer the question, after listening to everybody else's answers, the participant gives the wrong answer too. Meaning, we will forfeit even our intelligence to succumb to the group. You think about that quality we have as people that we're so easily conditioned by others. And then you think about the Hebrew midwives, that they were the only ones in that era to say, look, Pharaoh says kill the baby, I'm saying keep the baby. I mean, the tenacity, the moxie of these ladies to keep the babies when all of society is saying kill the babies. So there's this need inside of us to conform. And now here's the problem. We're looking for approval. We're looking for validation from a world that crucified a perfect man. We're looking for validation and approval from a world that took a Messiah that was flawless and nailed him to a cross. So the question becomes, where are we getting our approval from? Because it's determining how we behave and what we do. And in many cases, it can evolve into this pseudo-personality where my traits are not even my traits. Who I've become is not even who I am. It's more of an outcome of a social setting. Yes, question. Yeah. Either way, I mean, whether you're on the side of the right or the left, you can certainly be influenced. I mean, political, to your point, whether we're talking left or right, political pressure is a big pressure today. Like where you stand, what side you're on, whose team you're on, that's a real pressure point for many people. Does this, can I go to the next? So when David looks at Saul and refuses to wear his armor, it's a big deal because what he's saying to Saul essentially is, look, my approval does not come from you. In fact, if you're a people pleaser here today, I mean, we all struggle to some degree with people-pleasing tendencies. Oswald Chambers said this. He said, there's no Sabbath for people pleasers. What he meant was there's no rest. Number one, because people are never satisfied. They're never pleased. And number two, the need you have to please people is never satiated. It's constant having to please someone, and in the process, we forfeit all rest, we forfeit all peace. There's no Sabbath for people pleasers. A pseudo-personality is a pretentious self that one adopts to fit into a social structure. Your traits were imposed from without rather than being inspired from within. You know, I think about Jeremiah leaving Anathoth, going to Jerusalem. I think about Abraham, Genesis 12:1. Abraham, leave your father's house. Like, you got to get out of your hometown. Okay, in that hometown, the social pressure is too great. You're going to miss your call. Even the prodigal son. We were having a conversation at lunch. I know we read the story as some rebellious child, and it is that. He's definitely rebellious. He definitely does what's wrong, but it's also a coming-of-age experience. It's the son saying, look, I got to go. I can't stay here all the days of my life. The father doesn't get in the way. The father, what does he do? He lets him go. He knows the only passageway from boyhood into manhood is he's going to leave home. He's never going to come into his own. He's never going to discover who he is. He's going to live under the thumbprint, under the shadow of his father, of his older brother. He's got to leave home to find himself. Now, obviously, he leaves home. He squanders the inheritance on riotous living, and that's where the rebellion lies. But this need to come out of one's comfortable world to find oneself, I mean, it's a biblical pattern. And it's truly the only way sometimes that we can figure out who we are. Outside of that, we often live under the shadow of somebody else. The human proclivity is to conform. Hence, the Bible says, be not conformed. Because the impulse, the human instinct is you and I. If we're in a social situation, most of us look around. You walk into a room, everybody's clapping. You don't even know what they're clapping for. And like an idiot, you sit down. Like, what are we clapping for? Has anybody done this before? My kid's mom, I've been married twice, long story, but my kid's mom, my first wife, one of the smartest women I know. But I remember years ago we went to a movie, and we get to the cinema. This is like early 2000s. We get to the cinema, and the line is like 300 people deep. And my first wife is a very maverick kind of personality. So She sees the line 300 people deep. I'm walking towards the line. I'm like, oh, we're going to wait in line. She's like, no, we don't. I said, what do you mean we don't? She said, see that little machine right there? Follow me. I follow her. She puts the credit card in. The ticket comes out. Half the line turns around. They see what she does, and they make their way towards the kiosk. Because that's what we do. It's sheep mentality. We just do what the group does. One of the biggest tragedies in American history with fires is known as the Station nightclub fire. Have you ever heard of this? Happened in Providence, Rhode Island. 115 people died. Pyrotechnics, little tiny club. The rock band, the Great White was their name. They brought in these pyrotechnics, and the whole place lit up on fire. And they found 115 bodies stacked right at the exit. And part of the problem was everybody went towards the same exit. Only a few people said, let's look around. Let's see if there's another means of egress. Everyone heads out the same exit. They stample upon each other, and you got 115 bodies. Their skin was actually melded into each other, stacked at the exit to show us the dangers, the consequences of just following what the group does. So you got to be very careful in your life that, listen, God has made you an individual. Yeah, you're a member of a body, but you're also an individual. He didn't join us together at the hips. Okay, the fact that the Bible says come together means we had to first be apart. There's some space between you and your neighbor for a reason. That space is sacred. You're an individual. Don't forfeit your individuality. Don't lose it. Don't just go along to get along for the sake of approval. In doing so, you lose yourself, and not the way Christ meant it. Okay, so we have this instinct to conform, where we're either going to be conforming or we're going to be transformed by the Word of God, seeking validation from a world that crucified a perfect man. You know, there's a story about a little boy who played baseball. I was a terrible baseball player. I was a good wrestler, but I was a bad baseball player. I mean, if I hit a foul ball, my mother went crazy applauding because I made contact. Little kid's at the plate, and his legs are shaking. He's nervous, and the pitch goes over the plate. He looks at the pitch. He doesn't swing, and the umpire calls ball. And the whole crowd's going crazy. Strike! Strike him out! Strike! Kid's listening to all the people in the crowd. He's nervous. He's shaking. The umpire looks at the kid, and he says, the only opinion that matters in this game is mine. And God looks at us and says, the only opinion that matters in this game is mine. The only applause that matters is from nail-scarred hands. So we seek approval, but it's a real precarious position because now the person that's giving us the approval is also determining the apparel. Imitation is the highest flattery. We begin to emulate and act just like the ones whose approval we seek. But what makes David so remarkable is he looks at Saul. It's intimidating. Saul's a king. He has the power to destroy him and says, Saul, look, I'm not wearing your apparel. I'm not doing this your way. I'm doing this God's way. This is not comfortable for me. Now let's talk aptitude. Okay, so we talk attachment. We talked approval. Now we're speaking of aptitude. When we say aptitude, we're talking about you discovering your flares. All right? The Bible speaks of one being a hand, one being eyes. We all play a different part. We all have a certain role to play, certain gifts and talents. David is nothing like his brothers. If you look at the story in 1 Samuel 16, we'll be looking at it tomorrow. All of David's brothers, they're all over 6 feet tall. According to 1 Samuel 17, David's the average Hebrew boy, which is about 5'5". David is nothing like his brothers. His brothers swing a sword, and David slings a slingshot. Two different kinds of people here. In fact, one of the dangers of David trying to fit in and trying to wear Saul's armor is you give a 5'5" boy a sword that fits a 6 feet tall man, and we got problems. So David knows his lane. He knows, look, if you're going to be 5'5" and you're going to go to war, you better learn a slingshot. Because a slingshot, I can fight Goliath, I can fight him from a distance, Wait, we're not talking like KB Toy Store slingshots. Okay, I just dated myself there. Some of you think it's an app. KB Toy Store was a store. Were there any in Jersey? Okay. Remember the slingshots in KB? Not like that. These slingshots were dangerous. But David figures out at some point, I'm 5'5". I've got certain biological limitations. I know how God's designed me. I know the slingshot. That's exactly what I'm called to do. I can't be swinging a sword at 5'5". That's kind of like Prince. Remember Prince, the musician? He's like 5'2", and he's on this Harley, Purple Rain. It's like, Prince, get off the Harley. The thing's 4 times your size. People don't know how to stay in their lane. Especially in our society. You can identify as anything you want. But it's silly. I mean, it'd be silly for me to think when I was in high school, I'm going to play for the NBA. It's not going to happen. Unless you're Spud Webb. There are statistical anomalies. Everybody do this. Go like this. Go like this. Go like this. Go like this. Do this. Stay in your lane. Okay, you're going to stay in your lane. At some point, you're going to discover, what's my aptitude? Because there's nothing worse than a lady getting up on a Sunday morning, and she's got a song to share with all of us, right? And that's not your gift, okay? Let those who are prophets prophesy. Let those who sing, sing. So aptitude, discovering how has God made me? I think one of the worst things we told kids years ago is you can be anybody you want to be. No, you can't. You can't. There are biological limitations. Respect the laws of biology. I'm not saying, if you have a dream, that dream can't be fulfilled. But you got to kind of take a look in the mirror and say, this is what I got. How can I use what I got for the glory of God? I don't want to spend my whole life hating on somebody that has what I don't have, but I want to figure out what's my aptitude. David is a slinger. At some point, he realizes the sword is not fitting for me. If I go before Goliath with a sword, he's going to take that weapon out of my hands quickly, decapitate me, and the war is over. David realizes, according to my size, my stature, the way God designed me, the slingshot works best. And I use that slingshot as a metaphor to say, what's your aptitude? How has God made you? Now, here's where Erickson argues. Erickson, going back to Erickson, because he's like the human growth and development expert, probably one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century to understand how we grow. Erickson argued that between the ages of 6 and 12, he said a child must discover their industry, or they'll be prone for the rest of their days with feelings of inferiority. Now, what he meant by industry was this. He meant the thing that you're good at. He meant between 6 and 12, and you see it happen in elementary school. If you could think back on your own childhood, the athletes figure out they're athletic. The artistic kids figure out they're creative. The jocks figure out they're a jock. They're a meathead. We all kind of discover, this is the thing I'm good at. Girls become more visual. Maybe boys more communicative. Whatever it is, we begin to discover this is my industry. And if we don't discover our industry, there's a good chance we're going to struggle with inferiority because we're going to look over at somebody else that found their industry. And we're going to say, I'm not good enough. I really believe this is where Cain and Abel's strife begins. I think it begins with vocational envy. I don't think it's a mistake that the Bible describes their vocation. Abel works with sheep. Cain is a digger. People in manual labor professions have been hating on people in human service professions for many years. So you got a shepherd named Abel. He cares for the sheep, very nurturing profession. And then you got a digger named Cain, and he's going to dig the ground. And that digger, at some point, he figures out, you know what? I'm tired of being me. I want to be somebody else. He looks over at Abel, and the very first point of contention, even before the blessing of God is on Abel and not on Cain, Cain looks over at Abel and says, I hate you. I hate you because I ain't you. So we don't learn our industry. We're prone to constantly looking over at somebody else and saying, I want that. Well, discover you're this, and you won't be worried about that. What is your this? What's your industry? At some point, David realizes, I'm not like the brothers. He's the only one. They're all tall, 1 Samuel 16 says. They're all swordsmen. They're all in Saul's army. David, on the other hand, he's set apart. He's not built like the rest. He's exceptional, which means he's the exception. The word exceptional comes from exception. He's not like the group, and he realizes, I got to figure out my slinging game because I can't be a swordsman. Okay? Now, we have in childhood what's known as crystallizing moments. That's the term that Erickson would use. He says you either have crystallizing moments or paralyzing moments. Crystallizing moment is when Einstein gets his first telescope. He's about 7. Looks through the telescope, he sees the universe, and he realizes, I have a call to be a scientist. It's the second Beethoven starts playing the piano. Something comes alive inside of him. It's a crystallizing moment. Usually there's a teacher involved. There's maybe a coach. Somebody comes along. They say something, and it's like this awakening. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. I got something here. I guess this is my gift. And you know what? If you miss those crystallizing moments during the optimal window between 6 and 12, you join a church, you're part of the body of Christ, and then suddenly you realize you're gifted in a very unique area. This is your aptitude. And if you don't discover that industry, you're going to spend all your life struggling with feelings of inferiority. It's going to breed resentment, envy, jealousy, and the list goes on and on. I had a moment like that. I was in first grade, and I remember the teacher, it was in first grade, it was somewhere in elementary school, but the teacher said, every kid here is going to be a U.S. president. You're going to practice a speech by the president you've been appointed. We're going to practice in class, and then we're going to give the speeches before the school. So we had we had the same amount of U.S. presidents as we had students, so every student was appointed a U.S. president. Well, 2 weeks into this, one of the students gets sick. So the teacher says, so-and-so can't be James Madison. We need a kid in this class to do 2 presidents. Everybody at once yelled my name. I mean, and it didn't register. Like, why are they yelling my name? And I said to the teacher, I said, Mrs. Fields, why did everybody yell my name? She said, you're the only one that gave the speech. You didn't look at a note. She said, you're the only one, for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. Something's on you. It just seems to come natural. But that was a crystallizing moment. That made my journey in some ways, I still end up in trouble in juvenile detention, but it still helped me, even in my worst moments, realize there's a dream here. There's something. I'm supposed to communicate. I don't know what that means, what that looks like. I don't know if I'm a teacher. I don't know what it is, but I had this sense of industry that kept me from feeling inferior. It was in elementary. I can't remember the exact grade, but it was in elementary school. Yeah. Have you had your crystallizing moment? Did you have it as a kid? Have you had it in the body of Christ? Where at some point you realize your aptitude? Because if you don't discover that, there's a good chance you could spend your whole life feeling lesser than. We all have a role to play. God's given every one of us a talent, a gift. Now, last year I gave you a model in helping you discover yourself called the Big 5 personality temperament. How many remember that? This year I'll give you another model that's right along lines with this particular point. That's me as a kid, by the way. Yeah, I had plunger lips. When you encounter an opportunity that suits your industry, you stepped into your destiny. Goliath was the perfect opponent for David because David is able to maintain distance. Any of Saul's soldiers would have went before Goliath swinging their sword. They would have had that sword taken out of their hands. They would have been decapitated in a few seconds. David was built for the battle. He found an opportunity that matched his aptitude. Now, this is called the multiple intelligence test. You can Google an actual test and take it if you want to, but I think you'll know as I go through this where you fit in this. But a guy named Howard Gardner, he was an educational theorist in 1980, and he critiqued the public schools. Basically traveled the country, evaluating different public schools, and he realized that the public schools was catering to only 2 intelligences. And if you weren't intelligent in those 2 areas, those 2 domains, then you were considered stupid. So Gardner said, no, intelligence is far broader than two. So he came up with this model, did a lot of research. It's called the multiple intelligences. And as I go through these intelligences, you might discover in this moment your aptitude. You might realize, you know what? I've been trying to do this my whole life. But this is what I'm called to do. So the first intelligence is known as bodily kinesthetic. These are people that are good with their hands. They're people that their brain and their limbs, that the neurosynaptic connections between their cerebellum, which has to do with physical movement, and their prefrontal cortex, which is your thinking process, that their physical movements are coordinated well. Mechanics, boxers, martial artists, dancers, gymnasts. I mean, these are people that they express their intelligence through their hands, through their limbs. Okay? They're bodily kinesthetic. You'll often hear the term, he's a hands-on learner. Or they got to get their hands on it to understand it. Okay? Bodily kinesthetic. The second is linguistic. That's my highest. Linguistic is the ability to take thoughts and fluently, poetically, poignantly, thoughts are conveyed into words pretty easy. Okay, whether that's a writer, public speaker, linguistics, communicative ability, that itself is an aptitude. You probably have 3 to 5 that are areas where you're strong, and then you probably have 3 to 5 where you're weak. Okay? Then there's intrapersonal. Intrapersonal people are in touch with themselves. Not to be confused with interpersonal. Intra means to look within. People that are intrapersonal, they usually journal, very in touch with what they think, they feel, what they want, their value system, their principles. They're very principled in how they approach life. The next is spatial. Spatial people, my wife her highest is spatial. They're very visual. They're good with puzzles, good graphic designers, interior decorators. If they get lost, they can find their way out of a wilderness pretty easily because they get a picture of what the terrain looks like in their head. They can walk into a furniture store. My wife and I will go furniture shopping. She'll look at the couch and she'll go, it's not going to fit. I'll say, it'll fit. I'll get it to fit. And we buy it, pay the money for the couch. I'm trying to squeeze it in. I'm like, it's not fitting. I said, it's not going to fit. Spatial intelligence. Naturalists. Naturalists, these are people that have a way with nature. Dog whisperers, gardeners, eagle trainers, lion tamers. I mean, they just got it going on when it comes to their relationship with natural artifacts. They need nature. They like being outdoors. They hike. They have a relationship with nature. Musical. These are people that just, even when they study for a test, they put things into song. They think about lyrics. They're very sensitive to pitch, to the technicalities of music. Logical, mathematical. These are people that think, this is my second highest, people that just think logically. When they communicate in a sequence, in an argument form. They're constantly building one point on top of another. Existential. These are the people that are philosophical. Okay, they think about the bigger questions, like why am I here? What's the point of life? Why do good people suffer? Bad people prosper? Why do, what's beyond this life? Just those lofty philosophical questions. And then my third highest is interpersonal, and that's understanding people, relating to people, reading people, responding to people. All that is in itself a form of intelligence. Okay, so let's just kind of gauge the class a little bit. How many of you are bodily kinesthetic? Hands on. Does it match your vocation to some degree? Okay. How many are linguistic? Okay. Linguistic is usually higher amongst females than males. The average female, I want to say it's like 6,000 words per day. The average male is 3,000 words. My suspicion is that's not different words. Women just say it a few more times. They just keep repeating it. It tallies up the numbers. How about intrapersonal? People are very in touch with themselves. You probably have a diary. My wife has a diary. I can't believe my wife thinks I'm nosy. I don't know why she thinks that. It's right there on page 5 of her diary. It says, my husband is nosy. What would make her think that? I love that laugh. Who just did that? Who did that? My daughter Olivia does that. Sorry to put you out there on Front Street. He doesn't care. All right, naturalists. You're good with nature. You're green thumb. You're good with animals. You're good, yeah? Everything dies in my house. The goldfish, they all die. I'm terrible with nature. All right, how about musical? Anybody musical? Pastor Dan's going to be singing a song tomorrow, right? You doing that song? You're doing that Whitney Houston song tomorrow, no? Who's musical? Raise your hand. Okay. Are they really musical? Have we vetted these people? Okay, we got a good vetting team for who's singing up here, right? Okay, good. How about logical, mathematical? Raise your hand. All right. How about existential? Okay. Some of you existential types, you get caught up with conspiracy stuff that just drives me crazy. I can't do conspiracies, man. I don't know. Everything is a conspiracy. It's like putting your hand on top of your head and you're spinning around and you go, I think my hand is making me spin around. I think the thing at the top is making me move. Conspiracies just get weird. Anyway. What else? Let's see. Existential. Interpersonal. How many people is your thing? Okay. No, we did spatial, no? Spatial. How many spatial? Space shots? Any other space shots in here? Okay. All right. Knowing your aptitude, what is unique about you? What do you bring to the table? Spiritual gifts, natural talents, types of intelligence. What were your crystallizing moments? If you struggle with inferiority, what might you do about this? I mean, the worst thing in the world is spend your whole life wanting to be able when God has made you to be Cain. I mean, that breeds a lot of resentment. I mean, we just got to recognize that you have a lane. The old idea that you can be whatever you want to be, I don't think it worked out so well. I think it set a lot of people up for some major failure and defeat. Okay, next aspect of identity. Any questions on anything I just said? Yes, please. Yes. Say it again.
How do you deal with inferiority? Like if you had a rather crystallizing moment, paralyzing moment.
Yeah, well, let me define paralyzing moment first. I'm glad you asked the question. A paralyzing moment is any time during your learning journey where you were made to feel lesser than in a particular area. Maybe you were compared to a sister. You know, imagine David being 5'5" compared to his brothers who were 6 feet. Why can't you swing a sword like your brothers? I'm not built for that. So that's a paralyzing moment. I mean, how do you get over that? The only way of getting over inferiority goes back to what Erickson said, is the more you grow confident in your industry, the more you figure out, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I bring to the table, the less prone I'm going to be to looking around me. Social comparison gets us in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. A little bit off the beating path. But do you know that Oxford did a study that the happiest regions of the world also hold the highest suicide rates? How did that coexist? The happiest places are the most suicidal? Because if you have sadness and you're surrounded by people with gladness, that social comparison is going to really wreak havoc in your mind. Because you're going to look at yourself and look at the people around you. This is why we've seen depression and anxiety skyrocket with social media. Because you go on social media, a picture does not speak 1,000 words. A picture tells 1,000 lies. So you look at her life, oh, look how happy she is. Lies. Right? She's got her kids, her husband, they're all smiling for the camera. Smile! She's so happy, she's so happy. Why can't we be happy like she's happy? It's a picture, they lie. So, with social media, the advent of social media means the increase in social comparisons. The more social comparisons, the more people are depressed, the more people are anxious, people are looking at other people's lives. You're measuring the ideal them up against the real you. You're looking at the filtered them. People got more filters than Keurig on social media. There's a lot of false advertising going on. How many times you meet somebody, you're like, oh, yeah, no, I know you. I'm on Facebook. We're friends. Where are you on Facebook? And you look at the profile on Facebook, it's not you. Okay? Now, this is bringing a whole new meaning to the phrase when Jesus says in the end times, depart from me. I got no idea who you are. Those aren't the lips I gave you. I'm sorry. I gotta go there, man. I mean, it's becoming nuts. I go to a gym, everybody's got injections, body parts that are disproportionate to the rest of the body. I told you earlier, people got so much plastic, they should put on their driver's license, donor, Tupperware. When I die, my whole body's going to be donated to Tupperware. But it's created a lot of social comparisons. It's got a lot of people, rather than focusing on your lot, focusing on what you're not. And the real true contentment comes in when you realize this is my lot. Solomon said that in Ecclesiastes. A man will find peace when he just is blessed by his own lot. No, I remember math class, yeah. Yeah, I get it. I'm with you. I did well in social studies, I did well in science, but when it came to math, teachers like Mr. Caparrelli, come up to the board and explain to the class the difference between 2/8 and 3/8. I'm like, teach, that's what I say, 2/8, 3/8, what's the difference? All right. Okay, so we're talking identity. Now we talk authority. Okay, now here's the deal. The David-Goliath story, because this is what we're looking at here. We're looking at David wearing armor. He's going to fight Goliath. No other man's armor. Goliath is a type. The type of the flesh. You all have a Goliath. There's a beast inside of you. Okay, that Goliath story, I mean, let's face it, we read that story. It's not like you and I are going to actually go out and fight some physical Philistine somewhere. The Goliath story is relevant, it's germane to you in the sense that Goliath is representative of that beast that's inside of you. You all have a beast inside of you. Okay? Authority means when God made Adam and Eve, the Bible says he makes them in his image. He tells them, go cultivate the land. That means there's a lot of potential to your life right here. There's a lot of resources I've given you that are in the earth. You can use those resources. You can build cities. You can build cars. There's all sorts of things that can happen from the land, but I give you dominion. I give you authority over every beast in the land, because if you don't take authority over the beast in you, then the beast in you will devour the best of you. And that's a big part of identity formation, is mortifying the flesh. I have figured out in life that the most talented people are oftentimes the most tormented people. That very talented people have within them what Freud would call a thanatos, which means the capacity to self-destruct, that the most talented people, the most anointed people often have a switch, something inside of them that can destroy everything around them in a second. Ask Whitney Houston, ask Chris Farley, ask any actor that's been blessed, that just literally destroyed their life. The most talented people are often the most tormented people, and if they don't take authority over that beast in them, at some point the beast in them is going to devour the best of them. That the most beastly appetites in you, that's the thing that's going to destroy identity. I mean, you might have a cousin, uncle, relative, nephew, niece, maybe it's your own child, where they're so talented, you know who the real nephew is. You know how charismatic they can be. I don't know many addicts that when they're not addicted don't walk into a room and light the room up. But then they get so wrapped up in the addiction, they're so consumed by the heroin, they're so caught up in the alcoholism, that the beast in them, it destroys the best of them. So we talk about mortify the flesh. This is very much related to identity. Because you'll find, if you don't conquer that beast in you, in a matter of time, it's going to kill you. So we speak of Goliath. We're talking about David, but we're not just talking about David killing a giant. We're talking about killing the flesh. Walter Mischel was a research psychologist. He's still alive. He's in his 90s. Back in the 70s, he wanted to figure out what was the cardinal virtue, chief characteristic behind all successful people. Is it intelligence? Is it creativity? What is it? Is it IQ score? So Mischel did this experiment, very popular experiment called the marshmallow test. And he takes these group of kids, they're all about 6, 7 years old, and when they did the sample, they made sure the kids all like marshmallows. And he gives these kids the opportunity to either eat one marshmallow now, or if they can delay gratification, if they can control themselves, in 15 minutes they'll get 2 marshmallows. So a certain sample, they eat the marshmallow right away. Another sample, they wait the 15 minutes for the second marshmallow. That second sample, they demonstrate self-control. Fast forward 12 years later, Mischel meets with these kids. Now they're all 20, 21, 22, 23 years old. He finds out the kids that demonstrated the self-control at a young age scored higher in multiple domains. They were usually doing better in college. They were usually scoring higher on SAT tests. They were usually more satisfied with their life on the career path that they were called to, be on. That the kids that he figured out that the chief virtue, the cardinal virtue in uncovering your identity was self-control. That if you didn't have the ability to control your appetite, it was going to affect you across multiple domains. So this idea of taking authority over the flesh, very much to do with identity. Because that beast in you will devour your prophetic gift. That beast in you will destroy the anointing on your life. That beast in you will devour your particular intelligence, whether it's a vocation, whether it's some kinesthetic ability. The beast in you will always, over a matter of time, that beast in you will always get the best of you. I mean, you think about Amy Winehouse. I don't know if you know Amy. What a voice. I mean, died at 28, 29. That beast. Think about Whitney. I mean, Whitney, if there's any celebrity's death that really got me, and I know she's a Jersey girl, but her death really hit our family. It was like, if you don't gain control over one's own spirit, he who's slow to anger is better than the mighty. He who rules their own spirit, better than he who captures a city. Questions to ponder. What specific appetites? What's that beast look like inside of you? Is it overeating? Is it shopping? Some people got more Amazon orders. You might as well just work for Amazon. Is it shopping? What is it? Because I tell you, whatever that beast is, if you don't at some point take authority over that beast, at some point it has the power to sabotage, to absolutely sabotage every promise of God over your life. What are the ways you crucify the flesh? Here's the deal. Jesus said if your right hand, listen to this, if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Does he literally mean right hand? Is that what he literally means? He's speaking metaphorically, but why that metaphor? Why the right hand? Why say it that way? Well, your right hand is useful. You need your right hand. You need your right hand to do a lot of things. What he's saying is, there might be something useful in your life, but if it causes you to sin, it keeps tripping you up. It could be a good person. For whatever reason, the chemistry with that person causes you to stumble, cut them off. I need my computer. How many times have you fallen into porn addiction this week? A lot. Give up the right hand, save your soul. Try to keep the right hand, the useful thing. Sometimes there are useful things that have to be cut out. The right hand is not, it's morally neutral. It's not bad, your right hand. But if it causes bad, if it's stumbling, better to lose that than to lose your soul in the day of judgment. What are the beasts inside of you? And everybody should know what their Achilles heel, their kryptonite. Every person has a kryptonite, some specific addiction, habit. I mean, habits are like comfortable beds. They're easy to fall into and they're hard to crawl out of. That beast can destroy every promise in our life. Any questions about this point? Covering a lot of turf, huh? All right, last point. If you weren't here in the beginning of the seminar, that last point, I changed it before I trip on my shoelace. I can hear my nonna say, tie your shoes. Although in 48 years I haven't tripped over it once, so I don't know if that's an old wives' tale. Has anybody fallen over their shoelace? Really? Was it you're a big guy. You fell over your shoelace? All 6'3" of you fell over your shoelace? What would that look like? It's pretty bad, yeah. I'm falling and I can't get up. Legs, over a shoelace? Wow, I stand corrected. I'm tying my shoelaces from now on. That's true. You got jokes, man. You got a lot of jokes. Very, very funny. That's all right. That's all right. Revenge is a dish best served cold. That's it. All right, now, David makes a statement to Saul that I want to pay attention to. David says to Saul, I am not accustomed to this armor. The word accustomed is a very interesting word in the Greek or in the Hebrew. It's loaded. I mean, it's one of those words that's impregnated with principles of psychology. When he says, I'm not accustomed to this armor, he's saying, I haven't been acclimated to this. It doesn't fit me. It's not something I've formed a habit of. Okay, acclimation. Acclimation has to do with your habits. It has to do with, the person you are, really. There are behavioral psychologists that will say, really, we're not much different than animals. A lot of your behaviors come down to acclimation. The person you are, person you look at in the mirror, how you respond to things, decisions you make, all those responses, you learn them. They were conditioned. It was a process of acclimation. So when David says, I'm not accustomed to this armor, he said, I haven't had time to put this armor to the test. It's not something I've spent years practicing. On the other hand, the slingshot, man, I've been slinging my whole life. I was in a fight with lions and bears. I used a shot. I won. I practice. You got to be very careful for what you practice, because whatever it is you practice, that training becomes ingrained in your mind. Okay, we've all been acclimated to certain things. We're accustomed to behave in certain ways, and that's a set of habits, and that set of habits is years of conditioning. The good news is if you've made some bad habits, you can remake new habits. Okay? In fact, you've got to be very, very, very careful that the thing you're doing repeatedly, because the thing you do repeatedly, it starts out intentional, but it becomes instinctual. It becomes a part of who you are. Right? When the Bible speaks of identity, one of the verses that Paul uses in the epistles, he says this, train yourself for godliness. Train. Train means repeated practice of something. Okay? You might pray initially, and when you pray, it's awkward. I'm new to prayer. I don't really understand prayer well. When I pray, I can't find the words. Prayer is very intentional, but over time, it becomes instinctual. Over time, it becomes second nature. It's training. It's acclimation. It's the repeated practice of something until it evolves into instinct. So when David says, I'm not accustomed to this armor, he's saying, look, that's not where my habit lies. I'm used to the slingshot. I say all that to say a lot of your identity, it's what you become accustomed to. You do things enough times, whatever the thing is, it becomes you. You don't just make decisions. Decisions make you. They form you. Okay? You might be a person that freaks out during a crisis. That might be your habit. Well, I mean, all of Israel was freaking out when they saw Goliath. They're all running from Goliath. The Bible says that he came and they were taunted by his voice. They heard his voice and they were running. He's too big. I can't kill him. David's like, he's too big. I can't miss him. All right? David's accustomed to danger. He's accustomed to crisis. He's fought lions and bears. It's what he's accustomed to. He's accustomed that when crisis comes, I'm not looking to escape the crisis. I'm looking to face the crisis. That's his acclimation. You too can be acclimated. Now, there's a great book. It's called Atomic Habits. How many read it? Best-selling book over the last 7 or 8 years. But it's not, I mean, the concepts in the book are not anything new, but the writer sort of repackages them in a very fresh way. And he presents what's known as a habit feedback loop. He said, this is how acclimation happens. This is how David became accustomed to his slingshot. It's why the sword didn't work for him. He wasn't accustomed to it. The habit wasn't developed. He said, habits don't happen in a vacuum. They happen in an environment. A habit is really a conversation between your body and the environment around you. And it's a feedback loop. Every habit you have has a loop. I mean, most of this goes unconscious. Part of the reason for the book Atomic Habits is to make you conscious of it. Because Proverbs says the fool stumbles over what he cannot see. So the more we're subconscious to something, the more we're unaware of it, the more we're enslaved to it because we keep tripping over it because we can't see it. So the book is to make you mindful that, look, a habit, there's a lot going on. Pay attention. You're tripping over something. Stop tripping over what you can't see. So here's the habit feedback loop. He says it starts out with a cue, some environmental trigger. Now we all have, if you fall into a certain habit, the first thing that happened was there was a cue. Okay, if you struggle with porn addiction, the cue might be a certain time of day, 10 o'clock, everybody's sleeping, it's dark. That's a cue. It's an environmental trigger. It's something in the environment. The lights go off. It's dark out. People are sleeping. Certain environmental, a setting is being, a location has been set. That's a cue. It's an environmental trigger. And in the story of David and Goliath, Goliath is the environmental trigger. He's the cue. There's a threat. Okay? Now there's a craving. The environmental trigger prompts some internal craving. Now, some people see Goliath, and the craving right away is escape. Something's threatening, I want to go escape. I'm going to go on Netflix. I'm going to lose myself in reels on YouTube. I get high. People get high to escape. There's something threatening them. I'm going to turn to the bottle. I'm going to get drunk tonight. I'm just going to forget. I'm going to drink my sorrows away. I'm going to escape. David's craving is not to escape danger, it's to face it. He's got a craving for victory. You can, by the way, if you have a craving to escape, that can change. You can crave victory. The more giants you kill, the more addictive it becomes. He's like, I killed lions, I killed bears. Man, I want that high back. Where's this giant? Right? The environmental trigger, the cue, Goliath, the craving, victory. And there's a response. He takes action. Okay, there's a response. Those responses, again, it's a feedback loop. It's in conversation with the environment. David's response is, where's my slingshot? And then the reward, there's some reward at the end of the feedback loop. For many people, the reward is gratify self. For David, the reward was glorify God. For some people, the end game is I want to gratify myself. All I care about in life is gratifying myself. Which, by the way, is a sure recipe for misery. Sure recipe for misery. David at some point becomes so accustomed to the glory of God that that's what motivates him, is I want to see God's glory. But the point is, every habit you have, every way in which you've been acclimated or accustomed to something is in that feedback loop. And if it's a bad habit, you've got to disrupt the feedback loop. Part of disrupting is becoming aware of it. Okay, it's in this type of environment, these cues, these triggers. You got to know your triggers. Let me change things up a little bit. I'm going to go to bed early. You know how many troubles I avoided at 18? I got saved and decided to go to bed at 8:30. I know people that struggle with overeating. I mean, morbidly obese. I'm like, dude, when are you eating most of your food? At night. Go to bed. You're going to lose about 50 pounds in 6 months just by going to bed at 8:30. University of Cambridge did a study on people that overcome temptation versus people that give in to temptation. They found out the difference between the two groups. The difference was not dispositional. It had less to do with what was inside of them. The people that overcame the temptation versus the people that fell into the temptation were people that decided to not put themselves in situations where they would be triggered. I figured that out about eating. I told my wife, don't buy Doritos. One is too many, 1,000 is not enough. If you don't want to put your hands on it, don't put your eyes on it. Jesus said, if you look at a woman, because behind a look is a hook. Even if you look at a woman, that look, hook, it's a cue. So if you're going to change the habit, you've got to examine the feedback loop. You've got to figure out some way of disrupting it, because let me tell you, your identity is largely predicated upon a cluster of habits. It's responses that you've been developing your whole life. You keep practicing it repeatedly. Eventually, the decisions you make, the decisions make you. And it becomes a part of who you are. Does this make sense? Breaking bad habits means disrupting the loop. Be more mindful of the cues. Your cravings can change. They can. You can go from craving escape to craving danger in a good way. Where it's like, you know what? I'm tired of running from this. It's time to face this. I crave closure. I crave getting this done. I crave progress. I crave victory. I'm not craving the things I used to crave. Your cravings can change. Your responses can change. I used to respond this way. I'm now responding that way. Do it enough times, eventually it defines you. And your rewards, your outcome, the ultimate goal of your life, the ultimate aim. It can go from my whole life was about gratifying me to my whole life now is about glorifying God. This is one of the big differences between Saul and David, you know. You see it as soon as you meet Saul. One of your introductions to Saul, he's a kid looking for his father's lost donkeys. He gets a chance to sit with a prophet named Samuel. I mean, it was a big deal to meet with a prophet. Because you meet with a prophet's going to tell you all about your destiny. It's going to tell you all about God's plans. As soon as Saul meets Samuel, all he wants to talk about is donkeys. That's all he got on his mind is donkeys. Self-preservation. Loss aversion. Loss aversion means protect what's yours. You can't lose it. Oh my goodness, don't lose it. If you lose it, loss aversion is one of the biggest opponents to critical reasoning. It's one of the biggest opponents to creative enterprises. People get so stuck on protecting what's theirs. Jesus said, if you save your life, you'll lose it. You're going to lose your life to save it. One of the first things Samuel says to Saul is, never mind the donkeys. They're found. I got something else to say to you. I want to talk to you about destiny, and all you can think about is a donkey. Saul never becomes all that God wants him to become because he's that kind of man. Protect what's mine. All he can think about is a donkey. That's his That's what he's accustomed to. Protect oneself. Self-preservation. David, on the other hand, glorification of God. But we can go from Saul to David. That's the power of the gospel. Any questions on this? What's the thing you keep doing? What's the thing you keep doing that you don't even want to keep doing it, but you find yourself you keep doing it? Romans 7, right? The thing I don't want to do, I do. The thing I want to do, I don't do. Everybody's in some doo-doo in here. That's the doo-doo chapter, Romans 7. I'm in doo-doo. I'm stuck in doo-doo. I want to get out of doo-doo. I don't do what I want to do. I do what I don't want to do. I'm in doo-doo. What's your doo-doo? Smoking, there you go. I guarantee there are cues that go along with that. You're probably not mindful of it, or maybe you are, but there are cues. That's the first thing to recognize, is there are triggers. True. Well, the minute you say it's okay, the cigarettes or whatever it is, yep. There you go. But looking at that feedback loop and figuring out what cues, what are my cravings when the cue happens? How can I change this up? How might I change things a little bit so I'm not triggered? I keep stumbling over this because I don't see it. I'm not paying attention to it. Oh, now we're passing the buck to other people. I'm hoping somebody, oh, you can see it. Who are you kidding? You see it. Yeah, you see it. I'm on to the con. You see it. Yes. The cues. Yeah. Sure. I'm telling you right now, you need to stop smoking. Stop smoking, I'm telling you. Stop smoking. Let's begin with what you know you have. I'll bet you've seen progress in other areas, though, and you can be encouraged by that, because if you can defeat the other giants, then this giant's coming down. I'll guarantee you back up at last year, you're not the same guy you were a year ago.
I see men and how they walk, how they talk, and I see it, and I admire that, and I go towards these people.
Yes.
And I want to be around them, and I want to act like them, and the good I see. I just wish I know, I'm always striving to get better.
Yes, that's a good thing.
I know that there's things I say or do, I'm a little rough, and I know I am.
Sure. Think about when the cue happens, whatever the cue is. First, identify the cue. What is it that, let me finish. What is it that triggers you to smoke? And ahead of time, think about another response to that cue. Something else we can put in the place of the cigarette.
Don't ever drive my car again.
So road rage. No, but you got to think along the lines of substitution. It's like the little boy who's playing with the pair of scissors, and the sister says, "Give me the scissors. You're gonna get hurt. Give it to me." Hold on, listen. Give me the scissors. The little boy says, "Now, give me the scissors. No." The little girl knows he likes oranges. She hands him an orange. He lets go of the scissors. You got to figure out what your orange is. You got to figure out what will substitute that nicotine in a time when you're being triggered. Listen, no judgment on you. I wrestle food. Me and food have a very special relationship. If a waitress gets my order wrong, nastiness starts to rise inside of me. Is anybody, it's bad. Like, my first thought when I wake up is not Jesus. It's what am I going to make for dinner? And then Jesus. I'm just being honest. So I'm like, my wife wakes up, she's like, "Good morning." I said, "What do you want to eat tonight?" She's like, "What are you talking about? 6 o'clock. So I know there's a real issue. There's an intimate relationship between food and I. Italians don't eat food. We romance it. It's a different thing. But anyways, so I'm with you, brother. We all got these habits that we've got to interrupt the loop. Anybody else? All right, last point here. Last point. I want to make a distinction between Saul, the image builder, and David, the image bearer. The big difference between image builder, image bearer. Saul's whole life is building an image. That's his whole life, is his reputation. You can usually tell what somebody's identity is in. It's whatever they get defensive about. Like if your identity is in your job and someone else comes along and they're better than you, you're going to get very angry because your identity is in your job. You know, I got family from New York. The New Yorkers have like a superiority complex. Like New York is like superior to everything. And then they'll fight with each other over who's more New Yorker. It's like, oh my goodness gracious. It's like whatever your identity is in, you're going to get defensive in that area. Okay? Like Saul is defensive. Once he hears the people say, Saul has killed thousands, but David has killed tens of thousands. Saul is irate because that's his image, is his vocation, his job, what he does. David's not an image builder. He's an image bearer. It's a big difference. David knows that it's not my name. It's God's name. In fact, the thing that ticks David off is when God's name is defied. Who is this giant to come against? Not David. To come against the armies of God. I come to you not in sword and javelin, but I come to you in the name of God. For David, he knows, I'm not building my image here. And we live in a society, it's all about image. I mean, image is the big thing. My reputation, how I'm perceived, my profile, how I look on social media, what others think of me. Image building is like the enterprise of the day. It's the soup du jour. It's the order of the day. But David is like, I don't care you know what? I care about what you think about him. And here's how you know that David is an image bearer, not an image builder. When people wore Saul's armor, every king had their insignia on the armor. It's their brand. It's their logo. So when Saul's soldiers go to war, they defeat a giant. It's known this is Saul's army. It's credit to Saul. Saul's all about building his image. He wants you, David, you're going to wear my armor. My insignia is on that armor because when you beat that giant, all the glory goes to Saul. He's an image builder. David goes to battle against Goliath with no armor. Don't lose this. Some of you are zoning out. I can see it right now. You're getting tired. We're coming to a close. Don't lose this last point. David's got no armor. All he has is a slingshot. He's got no armor, which means there's no insignia. Okay? Here's the deal. David's got no brand. You know why he's got no brand? Because he is the brand. Think about that. He's the insignia. He don't have a brand. He is the brand. He don't have a logo. He is the logo. He's God's brand. So if he wins the war, it's not about building David's empire. It's about building God's kingdom. If he wins the war, it's not because I look good. You don't look at me and go, look what you did, Mike. It's look what the Lord has done. That shift right there, that's like the real, if we would get to the heart of the matter with identity, the real heart of the matter. Everything else I said is corollary to this point. This is the main point. The main point is this, is that we bear the image of the one who created us. We don't have a brand. We are the brand. We're his brand. If I can get that focus, make my whole life about what does he look like, and never mind what do I look like? What do people think of him when they meet me? If I can stay there, the longer I can dwell there in my mind, the more free I'll be. And the more I think about my name, the more I'm in trouble. That's it. Any questions or thoughts? We got 5 minutes. Next year, you're going to say, 1 year, no cigarettes. But I've been eating Twinkies. No, I'm just kidding. Absolute great way of saying it. You summed it up well. If I can go after the glory of God and not my own glory, a lot of things are going to fall into place. If I can get my mind off of how I look, think about how he looks. I never forget, years ago, I had an opportunity to preach somewhere. I was young in preaching, maybe 25 years ago. I was so afraid driving to this place to preach at this little church. I was so afraid. I was so nervous. I remember God speaking to me and saying, if you worry more about my name and less about your name, there would be a lot of power in this car right now. There's no power in your name, but there is power, wonder-working power in the name of God. So yes, being focused on him and bearing his image, that's the key to freedom. That's really the pathway to identity. Any questions? Yes. Yeah. Sure. You know, it's interesting. Paul says to people that steal, it's in Ephesians, he said, if you steal, you should work with your hands. It's a really interesting remedy for anybody that has kleptomania. Because if you have kleptomania and you steal, you got this, like, call it sticky fingers, right? You get this itch, like, I gotta grab something. Paul said, let's redirect that. Work with your hands. It's not like rejecting the instinct, it's redirecting the instinct. So, I mean, I gave you, that's an example with stealing. Paul gives the remedy of working with your hands. Well, you can apply that in a lot of ways. You're a pathological liar. Your tongue runs away with you. I mean, get real bold and courageous about speaking the truth. You know what I mean? Like, your tongue needs something to do. Give it something good to do. So whatever the habit is you're trying to break, you got to kind of dissect that habit and figure out how to redirect this in a way that's more redemptive and more true to who I am in Christ rather than who I am in the flesh. If you have a specific example other than the one I said, you want to put it out there, I'd be more than glad to speak to it. Yeah. Like, I know gamblers that get saved, like gambling's their vice. And when they get saved and they start growing in Christ and becoming who they are in God, they become some of the greatest risk takers for the kingdom of God. So that same instinct, the impulse to take risks, which is really wired into their personality, is redirected in a sacred direction rather than at the casino. I know men that struggle with lust, when they get saved, become the most intimate worshipers of God. I don't think those two things are unrelated. I think the fact that they have this temperament that's more sensitive and intimate and what have you, now it's redirected and now they become the most intimate worshipers of God. So, you know, you can kind of do that with, for every virtue there's a corresponding vice. For every vice there's usually a corresponding virtue. Image of God, image of Adam, and they're kind of all convoluted inside of us, and part of sanctification is separating the two. Yes? Some of the most lustful people, when they're in the world, they're lustful. That's who they are in their flesh. They get saved, they become the most intimate worshipers of God. That's life transforming. No, I'm just kidding. that is a little weird. That is cool to know. Brian, you have brought so much life to today's seminar. Yes. I don't know of any tool or instrument in particular that measures that, like virtue, vice kind of thing. I would recommend, I had a professor, you probably know his name, I took 2 of his classes and met him once, Dr. Jordan Peterson. I took his psychology of personality class, and he does a good job. That class, you can find it at Peterson Academy online. He does a good job at describing the whole vice-virtue correlation. But for every vice in your life, vice like a bad habit, there's a virtue hidden in there somewhere. And for every virtue, there's a potential vice. I found manipulative people that are very manipulative in the world, they get saved, sometimes they're the wisest. I mean, Jesus did say, be as wise as a serpent. Think of that. That's like crafty, serpentine, manipulative. So manipulation is sort of the counterfeit for wisdom. Lust is the counterfeit for intimacy. So, if you look, you take that class, it's helpful. He's not Christian per se. Sure. Oh, no doubt. Definitely. We're all here because we're not all there. You know that, right? We're all here because we're not all there. Yes. True. Thank you for emphasizing that. Yes. 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 Sure. Absolutely. Definitely. Agree? Yeah. I mean, the Holy Spirit will show you, yeah. And sometimes people, like the body of Christ. But Moses has got to recognize when God calls him to part the Red Sea, God says to him, what's in your hands? Like, I put something in your hands. A staff. Well, use it. I mean, God could have just part the Red Sea. He didn't need what was in Moses' hands. But it's how he operates. That he puts something inside of you, inside your hands. Take heed to it. It's going to be part of his plan for your life. So we think of supernatural as God doing all the work, but supernatural is sometimes God putting the super in the natural. So we have natural resources, and he anoints those natural resources for his purposes. Yes. Excellent. Triggers. That's fantastic. You know, it's funny. I just had somebody tell me that at Riverside in Jersey City last weekend. They said that they were going through sort of an identity crisis, and somebody asked them what they liked as a kid, and they said they'd picked up an instrument. They were playing the piano, but at some point, mom gave disapproval. They put it down, and they just went back to that recently and discovered a love. Because we could have a paralyzing moment where some teacher comes in. Like, I got a friend, Doug, who's so musically talented. He's in his 60s, so musically talented. He's part of our worship team. Like, when he would lead worship, the place was just, it was amazing. He kept quitting the worship team. I'm like, what is behind this? Why does this guy keep quitting? And I get to know him. He becomes a good friend of mine. And he tells me when he was playing his instrument back in the 70s, playing his instrument in his room, he's a teenager, his mother would walk by the room, and she was just an abusive woman, and she would just do this. And he said that was a paralyzing moment for him. The enemy used her disapproval, stifle his God-given talent, and it kept tripping him up. He kept quitting worship team, encouraged him back on, quitting. Even to this day, he still has not stepped into the full promise of, God still uses him powerfully, but he struggles with that mom's face just doing this, that paralyzing moment that shut down an interest in a particular area. So, All right, it's been great talking this identity topic. Pastor Dan, would you come and pray? And tomorrow I have a message on rejection. Please invite some friends, call some people up, bring them to church. Let's fill the house tomorrow. All right, it's been awesome. Love you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so Pastor Mike has his books there. We'd like to... All right, so thank you for coming. We do need your help. We have to put this room back so that it's ready for tomorrow. So if you are able to stay, we need to take the tables down and put the chairs back. And we also need to clean the back room. But thank you again for coming. Help yourself. There's still desserts. There's still coffee and tea. And we would love it if you could join us tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Dr. Mike will be sharing. And we hope to see you. Bring your friends, bring your family. Otherwise, have a great day.